Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to the GSL-English podcast. My name is, of course, Gideon, and I am here, as always, every Sunday to immerse you in the English language in a relaxed and natural way. I hope you have had a good week, whatever you have been doing. If you are a returning viewer or listener, thank you so much for tuning in again to my podcast. And if you are new here, you are most welcome. Now, you will notice if you are watching this podcast that this week I'm on the sofa. Yes, I'm sitting on the sofa for two reasons, okay? First reason is one, I've been sitting at my office chair, which is just to my left, all day, editing videos, teaching private classes, hosting speaking clubs, and I just had enough of it. I don't know if you ever get that, but I had enough of my chair. I was sick of it and I wanted a change. So I came and sat here with a cup of tea, and then I thought, you know what? Let's record the podcast from this corner. It may even become my podcasting nook. A nook is an area reserved for a particular purpose. So I'm thinking of making this my little podcasting nook. And also, I was thinking a lot of you have said that as well as listening and enjoying these podcasts with the main focus of learning and improving your English, some people have mentioned recently that they just like sitting back and relaxing with me. So I thought, you know what? This is a bit more relaxed. So if you are in favour of the sofa, of the podcasting nook, say I in the comments, and I shall come back here next week. And if you don't like it, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, or you just feel a little bit weird about it, then I shall return to my chair that I spend basically my life in. Very good. So we're going to get straight into our topic for today. Now, if you go way back to, I think, one of my first podcast episodes, I went through one of my favourite poems. Now, that podcast didn't particularly get a lot of views because I was just starting out. So I thought, you know what? Let's go through that poem again. It's a poem that I absolutely love. It's called Collecting Pebbles by George Crocus. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Now, just as a little disclaimer here, I am by no means a poetry expert. I don't know everything or really anything about poetry. But all I know is I really like this poem. And then I guess isn't that what poetry is? If it resonates with you, if you like it, then it's good. So I like this poem because of its simplicity, but also its deeper meaning. So what we are going to do is, firstly, I'm just going to read through the poem in its entirety so you can hear it. If you are watching on YouTube, please read along with me. And then afterwards, we'll break it down, verse by verse, paragraph by paragraph, and see what we can make of it. Okay, so this is the poem. As I said, it's called Collecting Pebbles. And just as a note at the beginning, pebbles are those little, often quite smooth stones that you'll get on a beach. Okay, so just to keep that in mind. All right, we'll read it in its entirety. At this point, I recommend pausing for a cup of tea. If you don't have one, get some drinks, get some snacks, just so you are ready to sit back, relax, and enjoy this poem with me. So once you are ready, let's get going. It was from the sands of a windswept beach. I picked up pebbles that were easy to reach. They had attracted my attention while walking by. Their coloured, well-formed shape caught the eye. There were so many to choose from, I had to decide in selecting those which my fancy would coincide. It's truly amazing what some people see in stone, a subject in which a lot of our imagination is prone. It was almost as if I'd found treasure on the seashore and couldn't help myself as I looked around for more. The simple joy of collecting something that attracts the mind is an age-old activity which all people do have of some kind. There were the questions of how many would I take, and what, if anything, with them one could make. They were so abundant and all varied mostly in size that it wasn't hard to imagine an object or visualize. It was only the first location at which I found that I thought surely there must be others around. So with a sense of adventure, I looked forward to explore another beach while making my way home along the shore. There were several other stops made further on the way, collecting various coloured pebbles amidst the sea spray. Many times would I get my sandals wet along the coast, going amongst rocks and sand to the water's edge at most. It was with a sense of gain and loss, then after I'd taken enough, deciding right there and then to stop collecting, which was tough. The next step would be to think about and see what I would do with all those beautiful pebbles gathered while passing through. Maybe I could approach someone with the right flair and skill, who could make something with them and imagination fulfill. That natural forming, eroding action of water, ice, wind and sand rarely requires the finishing touches of some other skillful hand. Perhaps in fashioning some jewellery, using metal to bind, a few pebbles together that are different or a similar kind. Or maybe I could just keep some myself and give the rest away, a gesture of friendship toward which our memories would play. Yes, it was from the sands of many a windswept, lonely beach I came across the collected pebbles that were within reach. Isn't it truly amazing what some people see in stone, a subject in which much of our imagination is prone? Okay, absolutely beautiful poem. It really resonates with me, and I'll just give my reason why before we break it down. To me, this takes me back to my childhood, of the simple activity of collecting pebbles with my family on a beach. And perhaps you can relate to that. Maybe you've been on a walk, for a walk on a beach, perhaps on your own, with friends, with family, and you all get involved in finding that perfect stone. And isn't it true that when you are taking part in that, when you are looking for that stone, you kind of become united, you bond together, in which at that moment is the most important thing going on in the world, to find that perfect stone on a beach. And I think it's one of life's simplicities that is very beautiful. It's a simple task that the poem really puts across nicely, that I think we can all share that kind of memory. That's why I like this poem, particularly for me, going to visit my nan on holidays in Cornwall with my family. This is what we would do. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We would just go looking for pebbles and then go to the pub afterwards. Simple task, but there was a real beauty to it. So I think that's why I resonate with this poem, and I'll be interested to know if you have the same thoughts and feelings. But let's break it down, look at some of the vocabulary and just see what each part means. So it starts off by saying that it was from the sands of a wind-swept beach. So the clue is in the word wind there. It's pretty self-explanatory. Wind-swept, meaning that the wind was sweeping across the beach. It was windy. Often the sand, you can see it in the sand and it creates some dunes. So it's a windy day. Generally, in England, if you go to the beach, you're going to find yourself in the same type of conditions. And he said, I picked up pebbles that were easy to reach. Just walking along the beach. You're not thinking about much, There's not a lot on your mind, so to speak. You're just picking up the pebbles that were easy to reach. And you pick up the ones that attracts your attention. It says here, the ones that catch your eye. To catch your eye is like something that catches, physically grabs your attention. And sometimes walking around a town or a village or wherever you are, things catch your eye, don't they? And it's very subjective. What catches my eye won't catch your eye, because we have different views. We're looking out subconsciously for different things. It's the same when we're collecting pebbles on the beach. If you and I were to go walking on a beach, the pebbles that I choose are not the same that you would choose. And that's the idea, walking along this beach, you pick up the ones that catch your eye for whatever reason that is. So it's a very individual thing, isn't it? And we carry on, there were so many to choose from. How do I decide? Hundreds of thousands of pebbles on a beach. So it says, in selecting those which my fancy, things we fancy are things we are interested in, things we like. We have an expression in English, which I wrote down in my notes, was if something tickles your fancy. If something tickles your fancy, think, oh yeah, I'll have some of that. Maybe you're looking at some cake in a restaurant. Which one tickles your fancy? Which one attracts you? Which one do you like? So which one would what I like, would coincide with what I find? Go in line with it. And it goes on, it makes this really interesting statement that isn't it amazing what some people see in stone? A subject in which a lot of our imagination is prone. If we are prone to do something, it means that we are naturally inclined to go that way. And I haven't looked up the meaning of this, but I wonder whether it's talking about the fact that throughout centuries and decades, we've made beautiful things as humans from stone, haven't we? I think of a few years back, I went to Rome. You look at the Colosseum, the statues, the cathedrals, what we were able to create out of stone is truly remarkable. So we see that as humans, we are prone to our imagination going wild when it comes to what we can make out of stone. Yeah, it's really, really well written. It's why I love it. If you've got any other take on that, I'll be really interested to hear it again, because I'm just giving you my opinions, which generally are not right. I'm joking. Sometimes I'm right. Every now and then. So if you've got any other theories on what parts of this poem means, or if you agree with me or disagree with me, let me know in the comments. I would honestly love to know what you think. And then he makes this really great statement. It was almost as if I'd found treasure on the seashore. And I remember this moment as a kid. You find that pebble which you think is amazing. So, Dad, Mum, I found it. Look at this one. So everyone comes running over, or you run to them. Okay, it's just a pebble. But in that moment, when you've got nothing else going on in your mind, when there's nothing else to worry about except finding that perfect pebble, it's like you found treasure. You found it. Oh, it's incredible. Amongst all the pebbles on the beach, you found that one pebble. It's perfect. It's treasure. It's like finding gold. A beautiful moment in this age-old activity. So he said, once you find that perfect one, you can't help yourself but look around for more, because you always have that question, what if? What if there's a better stone? What if this isn't the ultimate pebble on the beach? And that's the difficult bit, is knowing when to be satisfied, when to be happy. Because what if there is a better stone out there? What do we do? Well, that's it. And that just goes on and on and on. And it's almost addictive. You can't stop. I just love the way it words the next part. The simple joy of collecting something that attracts the mind. Now, as far as tasks go, it doesn't get much more simple than collecting pebbles on a beach, does it? But it's a simple joy. So I guess here it's relating or connecting the fact that things that make us happy don't have to be complicated. I think particularly in the society and the world that we live in now, everything is just complicated, isn't it? Whether it's technology or whether we have to drive 5 miles, drive 5 hours to go to a city, or I don't know, that's a rubbish example, but we overcomplicate things now, don't we? But this is just a simple joy. Collecting stones on a beach, it really doesn't get much more simple than that. And then you go, it's an age-old activity, which all people do have of some kind. It's age-old. It goes back through generations to generations. You could say through a whole generation of family, let's go find pebbles on a beach. And everybody, if they let themselves, would have fun. From grandkids to grandparents. Simple joy. Nothing complicated about it. And then it raises questions once you're in this zone. Remember, once you are collecting pebbles, that is the most important task in the world. There were questions, how many would I take? Which ones would I take? How many do I take home with me? So now I've got these serious questions while I'm collecting these pebbles, but how many can I realistically take home? And then the big question, which ones do I take home? Because it goes on to say they were so abundant, meaning that there were plenty. There were masses. There were tons of stones that you could choose from. There was an abundant selection, all varied in size. But it wasn't hard to imagine what you could do with them or what they look like. And sometimes, you pick up a stone and you see a heart or you see a certain image in it. But which ones do you take home? That's the difficult question when you're collecting pebbles. It goes on to say that it was only the first location at which I found that I thought surely there must be others around. So you found on the beach, your first beach, that one pebble that you think is the one. This is the one. And then what if there's another beach with better pebbles? What if I keep on walking down the coastline? Am I going to find a better pebble? Well, that is when our sense of adventure kicks in. That sense of an adventure. Of course, a sense is the way we feel about something. Our senses. Well, here you get a sense of adventure. Get a feeling of going on an adventure. Go on an adventure to find more pebbles. I need to find more. So I look forward to exploring another beach while making my way home along the shore. And I guess it is that point, where when do you stop? in little tasks like this, it's difficult. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation. It's difficult to call it a day. To get to the point where you say, or you have to say to your kids or to your family, enough is enough. We've looked through enough now. That's enough pebbles. All of our pockets are full. The bucket's full. My wallet's full. My hat's full of pebbles. We've got enough. But there's still, in the back of your mind, that question that says, what if? What if there is a better pebble? So on the way back, it says that there were several, many stops made further on the way, collecting various colour pebbles amidst the sea spray. Amidst is being in the middle of the sea spray. So, like when the waves are crashing in and you don't necessarily get soaking wet, you just get that beautiful spray from the sea. Quite refreshing. On a cold day in England, it's not the best feeling. But there is something quite majestic about it. So you keep walking down the windswept beach, looking for pebbles, with the sea spraying over you. Many times I would get my sandals wet along the coast, going amongst rocks and sands to the water's edge at most. So sandals would get wet, yes. I remember my parents always saying to me, Gideon, you can go up to the water's edge, but don't go in. Don't go too far, because otherwise my socks would get wet, my shoes would get wet. So the water's edge, is just where it goes into the sea. You know what I mean? So tide comes in, tide comes out. You can go on that bit, which is a little bit wet, but don't actually go in to the sea. So, as you're looking, you kind of get a little bit closer to the shore, because they're almost hidden and revealed as the sea comes in and out. So it was with a sense of gain and loss. So again, we're coming back to a feeling of gaining something new, but also losing out, because, after I've taken enough, I have to call it a day at some point. So I have that sense of gain from it, but also a sense of loss in the fact that I'm going to be missing out. And I guess this is true of many things in life, isn't it? That from any situation, it's like a holiday. If you go away for a week on holiday, when you leave for your holiday, it's a mix of emotions, and it is also a sense of gain and loss, isn't it? You've had an amazing time. Maybe you've gained a tan, or you've made some friends, or you've just relaxed a little bit. So you have that. But also on the other hand, you have the loss that you're going home, that the holiday has ended. So you get that sense of gain and loss. It says, deciding right there and then to stop, that was a tough decision to make. But, you got to do it at some point. There's a point where you have to call it a day. There's a point where you got to make your choice. So the next step is to think about what you're going to do with all of these pebbles. And once you've got them, or during the process of collecting them, you and your family, if you're coming up with these grand ideas, what could we do with these amazing, unbelievable stones we found that no one else has got in the world? It just really, to me, highlights the idea that in that moment, when you're collecting stones, it becomes the most important thing in the world. And it's uniting for a whole family. And then in the poem, he comes up with some ideas. Well, maybe I could approach someone with the right flair. Flair is an aptitude or a natural ability to be good at something, and skill. Who could make something with these stones? With an imagination, what could they make with them? And I do like this next point. The natural forming, eroding action of water, slowly eroding stones over time, the water, the ice, the wind and sand. This is a beautiful point. Rarely requires the finishing touch of some other skillful hand. Basically saying that what nature does to rocks, to stone, to pebbles is beautiful in itself. That erosion that takes place over years, often it doesn't require human hands. It doesn't require a skillful hand. It's beautiful enough in and of itself. And isn't that true? Sometimes you pick up a stone and it's just so unbelievably smooth and it's just a perfect shape, and nature has done that itself. That's a really nice point, I think, in this poem, that a skillful hand's really not going to make this much more beautiful than it already is. But if we're going to make anything out of it, perhaps in fashioning or creating some jewellery using metal to bind, a few pebbles together that are different or a similar kind. So maybe that's something we could do with the pebbles when we go collecting, fashion some jewellery out of them. Lovely idea. Or maybe I could just keep some for myself and give the rest away. A gesture or an action of friendship towards which our memories would play. This is a really, really nice part of the story. I remember I did this actually with my wife. We were walking on a beach when we were dating before we got married, and I remember I found this really cool shell. It was amazing. Absolutely beautiful shell. It's like black and white. So I gave it to her. On that day, dating, trying to be romantic, blah, blah, blah. So I gave her that shell. And then actually on our wedding day, she surprised me where she had that shell put into a piece of jewellery. It's a little bracelet with that shell on. And, okay, that shell cost me nothing, But it's probably one of our most treasured possessions. It's those simple things, isn't it? It's the joy, and that to me is where I resonate with this story. It's a gesture of friendship sometimes. It's just giving a little stone. Hey, this is a stone from our day on the beach, Dad, or Granddad or whatever, giving you a little pebble they found. It's a beautiful thing. So he concludes, saying that it was from the sands of many, so I've done this more than once, a windswept beach, I came and across and collected pebbles that were in reach. It's truly amazing what some people see in stone, a subject in which much of our imagination is prone. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful story. I'll be really interested to know if it resonates with you as much as it does with me. And as I say, I love literature, I love reading, but I'm not a poetry expert by any means. But I know I like this poem. Okay, it's not the most complicated. Pretty simple poem, really. But I just think it's got a nice message. that, in my opinion, don't take for granted those simple things in life, those simple actions that you do with friends and family. Not everything has to be 5-course meals and money, 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 money. Just enjoy the simple things in life. Great poem. Absolutely brilliant poem. And as I say, please let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Whether you liked it, did it make you feel anything, think anything? And also, please try and use some of that new vocabulary that we looked at over the last week. And if you do remember the first podcast where I went through this, I would be honest, but just let me know. And then we can compare the two videos. But I just thought I wanted to go through that again. It came up in one of my private classes, actually. And I thought, you know what? I'd like to go through it in the podcast. One, because I don't want you to miss it. And two, selfishly, because I love it. But there you go. There we go. So, little update on my week so far. Just settled back in to life in England after being away. As I spoke about on Sunday, the jet lag was something that we were strongly contending with. It was hitting us hard, but I think we're over it now. Over it now here in England. And actually, we've got some glorious weather. We brought the sunshine back with us from the Dominican Republic. Today was about 26 degrees Celsius. I'm recording this on a Tuesday, and it's absolutely lovely here in Kent, just outside of London. So yeah, and apparently we've got some nice weather staying in for a while. So should be good. Now, I thought something I wanted to put forward to you as an idea is I'm thinking of doing either next week or the week after a podcast of myself walking around the English countryside and just talking about a certain topic. I'm just looking for a microphone that will do the job and something to hold my camera, which won't be all shaky. Otherwise, you'll feel sick when you're watching it, and I don't want that. So I'm thinking about doing that, just walking around more of England whilst speaking, doing a podcast, just walking around the English countryside, walking around London, or just some of my favourite places near where I live. So if that's something you are interested in, let me know in the comments. And what would you like to see? I would love to just post things that you want or that you would like to see. And also, I'm thinking of recording a podcast live soon. So that will hopefully be coming up in the next couple of months, maybe. Yeah, should be. A podcast live. So what would you like for me to talk about on the live stream? I don't know. But updates on the podcast Nook, it feels pretty good. It feels right. It feels more relaxed. It feels more podcasty. I watch quite a few podcasts to see how they do it, and they always look so much more professional. But one thing I've noticed that people don't really podcast from an armchair or an office chair. They always got these comfy, cool, suave sofas. So yeah, I thought, you know what? I'm going to show off my cool, suave sofa, which is orange velvet. And I'll be honest with you, it's getting hotter and hotter as this podcast goes on. So there you go. And one more update. As many of you will know, my wife is a massive Taylor Swift fan. My wife loves Taylor Swift. And unfortunately, we missed out on tickets. A bit of a miscommunication. We didn't get tickets when they first went on sale. We managed to get tickets for August. So my wife and I are going in August to see Taylor Swift. And I like Taylor Swift. I love my rock. I love my metal. I love my pop. I love my blues. I love every type of music. And I think Taylor Swift deserves a lot of respect. So I'm very excited to go and see her live with my wife. But there you go. I just thought I would fill you in with that. If there's any Swifties out there, say hi in the comments. But yeah, we're going to see her live in London. But there you go. So we'll conclude the podcast there. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the poem. As always, get involved in the comments. Say hi. Let me know where you're from. Or send me an email, GSL-English1@gmail.com, and I'll reply to all of you. But you know the drill at the end of the podcast. I always like to say thank you. Thank you so much for your support. I am loving the journey that this is kind of taking us all on together. I'm really excited to see where it goes. And hopefully, we just keep on growing and I can keep on doing this. So thank you so much. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing, incredible English learning content. I'll see you all very soon. Have a good one, guys.